Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Red Velvet. I'm your host, Sunmi, and with my co-host,
Alan, Scott, how you doing?
and we're here to bring you another episode on human relationships, wellness, and just good stuff from our podcast. Today, I know that we wanted to discuss an episode called 50-50.
50-50. That's right.
So, Alan, can you tell our listeners a little bit about what that 50-50 means?
Well, 50-50 means that relationships should be kind of split down the middle as far as, your love languages for each other, your feelings for each other, and of course, your duties towards each other. So you should probably think about 50-50 as like a split down the middle, like one person does the dishes, another person does the yard work, or you team up and do things together, like we both do the dishes, or we both do the yard work, or we both do the bathrooms. Someone does the upstairs bathroom, someone does the downstairs bathroom. It's just a matter of having your partner's back.
Yes, and I think I would have to agree. I think nowadays there are a lot of different roles in relationships, particularly ones where people are married and they've cohabitated for a long time. I think with families who have kids, it gets a little dicey where, it gets a little more complicated depending on how many children are in the fold and the like. So basically, for me, when I think of 50-50 in relationships, oftentimes I know this is a touchy subject for many people, but when it comes down to the finances,
Here we are, all about the money.
in terms of how, who's the breadwinner in the family, who's bringing in the money for the family, and yada, yada. I think finances seems to be a really touchy subject for many couples, which I have friends again. And I think in the last episode I had mentioned, I had 7 sets of friends who've actually gone down the road of divorce. And a lot of that had to do with a multitude of issues that ranged from infidelity. But I did have one couple friend where they actually divorced because the woman was a little more on the higher paid scale. She got paid a lot more than her husband. And she was the breadwinner in the family. And what ended up happening over time was, I guess, the exhaustion, where, my friend, she was doing everything. She was like raising the kids. She was bringing home the money.
Sound like she was doing it all.
Husband wanted to just go and travel the world, and do his hobbies. And when one of my friends didn't, I guess, agree upon one of the trips that he wanted to take, her husband at the time, that actually was the precipice of, you know what? I'm going to go despite what you say, no matter what you say. And then it led to the divorce. So it wasn't something that happened overnight. I think it was just little microaggressions that probably built up.
Little things that just build up over time, like little dominoes. Yep. And then next thing you know, all of them just fall right down.
They all fell, and then basically they are now happily divorced. They have 2 grown kids, and it's great. They all have partners, and working on the next phase of their life. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the woman making more money or bringing more money home than the man, but that does lead to issues, I think, with men. I wouldn't say all men, but I think in society, it's been taught that the man should be taking care of the woman, or yada yada. And
certainly, I'm not trying to interrupt, but that's archaic, to be honest with you, because quite frankly, women these days are making a lot more money than men. And you will see all the time that, quite frankly, you may see a lot of men that are like CEOs, but a lot of times, even people that are below these men in these companies are out wagering these powerful men and higher ups, because quite frankly, women statistically are working more than men, because they have more jobs than men and they have more higher paying jobs than men. So I don't know. I don't really see I'm just playing devil's advocate, but I really think that a lot of times that's an archaic way of thinking, that the man is supposed to basically go out and provide and do things that they used to do maybe 40 or 50 years in the past.
So again, I mean, we're going back to a generation, like for instance, our parents' generation, or even the generation
Right.
before that, the Great Depression generation, to the World War II generation. You had many women who didn't have the same opportunities. You have the women's suffrage movement, who obviously made a huge dent in the way that women were able to elevate themselves into positions of power. I mean, it's 2023. I mean, I don't necessarily believe that. I mean, I'm just saying that has been pretty much the mindset for a lot of the generations that grew out of the Great Depression and yada, yada. And also, I think a lot of people have seen women rise into, higher levels of power and prestige, and, have worked up the ladder in terms of the corporate ladder.
There's lots of women that have worked up the corporate ladder, and justifiably so.
So
there's a lot of history. A lot of data supporting that. Go ahead.
Yes. And I think what also I have come across, just personally, is I think men feel a certain level of inferiority sometimes, though, when they see a woman. I'm not saying all men, but I see a lot of men where they feel somewhat inferior, or they feel threatened maybe by
I think it's not really threatened. I think the term is emasculating.
Okay, fine. Emasculated. Yes. Let's use the proper term. But, I think that has caused a ripple effect in terms of just how our society operates. It is 2023. You do see a lot of women. I mean, we're not quite where we need to be. Like, we still haven't seen a woman become president of the United States yet. We haven't seen whereas other parts of the world, you've seen women become the most powerful person in the country. So until that day happens, when I see a woman break the glass ceiling,
are you talking about becoming the president of the United States?
Absolutely not. I'm saying that until the day comes in the United States of America when a woman actually is able to, and we can see her, hear her, know that she's actually made it to the highest office in the land, I think we still have a long way to go when it comes to women elevating themselves and in the world. I think you see it in the corporate.
I find certain cases, like, I don't know, Oprah Winfrey, a windfall for most women, because she is quite in a lot of higher end, I guess the highest of ends, being one of the richest women in the world, and not only being one of the richest women in the world, but one of the most powerful too, and influential. So,
but you know how she started out?
That's one. I mean, maybe she's an anomaly, but that's one.
Oprah Winfrey started out in Baltimore. She actually was a newscaster for WBZ. She worked up the ranks, so it wasn't something that she just sat on her butt, waiting for things to come to her. She worked her butt off. And women nowadays who are working their tails off to get into these higher, positions, whether it's in the workplace or whether it's, a seat in Congress, to having a seat at the table, basically, anywhere in any industry. I think, women have to fight a lot harder. I will have to say that women do end up having to fight a lot harder than the men.
They do.
And I'm not trying to, be chauvinistic or, have this, antiquated way of thinking. It's just, look at what's happening in the world. I mean, you see that all the time. When you have women who are trying to strive for the same levels of, positions in the workplace, women somehow have to work that much harder to get there. Their education has to be impeccable. They are looked upon, to child rear, as well as have this incredible career. It's just a lot of pressure,
It is a lot of pressure.
What about the men? Why is it okay for a man? And I'll use this specific example very clearly. When you see men who are marrying women who are 20 years younger, why is that socially acceptable? Yet when you see a woman who is maybe, in a position where she's 20 years older than the man, that coins you a cougar.
That's
That
true. That's
makes
true.
sense. So there is this, we need a paradigm shift in the way
We
that
do.
we think about women, and how, if we're ever going to achieve that level of 50-50 in society, we need
Right.
to start changing our mindset and really being, um, deliberate in terms of the way that we think and the way that we perceive women. So that's basically, why we wanted to discuss, the whole concept of 50-50, because in the world today, not necessarily is everything 50-50. It's just not.
It's
A
just
lot of
not. You're right.
the load, especially in married, relationships and marriages, you have, maybe a man who's carrying the weight, 80% of the time, and then 20% the woman is. You have
Right.
stay-at-home moms, you've got women who have, various high-level careers, and they're also taking care of the kids, or you have stay-at-home dads. I mean, I think you had mentioned you have a friend who
I do
has.
have a friend, and he's struggling, and he's struggling with his relationship because it's not 50-50. He knows it's not, and he wants it to be more 50-50. He wants it to be more of an even keel, so that he feels more masculine, so he doesn't feel like Mr. Mom, because he is kind of sitting at home with the kids, as his counterpart, his partner, is going out and doing the high power jobs, the very high end salary, and just coming home expecting dinner to be made. And he's sometimes like, look, I don't have the time. I have so much going on with the kids. I have so many other things I'm trying to get done around the house that, quite frankly, not every day I can supply you with a nice home cooked meal and a clean house. And it's different. It's difficult for him to deal with that, because he felt like this morning, in fact, that he's better off being alone and being a single dad, so he can balance out the shift, so that the paradigm will come back in his favor, so he can produce on his own and provide whatever stable lifestyle for his two girls. And
Right.
it's interesting, because I was trying to coach him out of it. But the thing is, he didn't want to be coached out of it, because he really felt that he would be more of himself being alone and going out and traveling and hunter and gathering money, just like most men want to do. I think any man that, and I'll be honest, since I'm a man, I'll be honest, any man that comes up to me and says, well, I don't really like to hunt and gather, I really just like to sit in the house, is probably lying to me. Most of them want to go out. 95% of men want to go out. They want to make money. They want to go do something. They want to go find their big whale of a job, or big whale of opportunity, and bring that home, so that they have some kind of belonging to themselves, and not only to belonging to themselves, to their loved ones. So, and it gives them that simple sense of purpose, that purpose that makes men feel whole. Sometimes as men, we get up in the morning, we're looking for that purpose, and that purpose alone would be going out and hunting and gathering money. And you see this all the time in your walks of life too. You have people that you're probably very, very close to, who knows, that honestly want to go out and hunt and gather and do things together, and provide for themselves or even their loved ones.
Sure. And I mean, I think I'm in a position where, I think our listeners know I'm a single mom. I've been a single mom for 16 years. I don't get child support. I have an ex-husband who's totally out of the picture. I literally have been raising my son in a environment where it's a very community-based environment. I'm very fortunate to live in Howard County, where he's, been surrounded by wonderful people in all of his organizations that he's, involved in. He belongs to a wonderful high school. He's got a lot of support. I wouldn't say that my situation is unique in any way. I think there are millions of women who have, a lot of fortunate circumstances the way I have, and also many women who don't have, the resources or the support, the level of support that I have. I mean, I have my parents who live not too far away. We've kind of it takes a village to raise children.
It does. It
I
really does. A lot
feel
of
like
people
stuff,
underestimate that, but it does take a village.
it does take
It
a
takes
village.
more
And I
than
mean,
one parent.
and Alan, I have been fortunate enough to work my way up, in my jobs and been able to take care of myself. I don't just do my day job. I hustle and I do a lot of different side jobs, and
That's right.
and I'm very comfortable. I'm very comfortable in terms of how I'm raising my son. Very comfortable in terms of, I own my own house, so it's not, it's just, I
That's right.
think
You're a hustler. You're a hustler,
I'm a
homie. You're a
hustler,
hustler.
yes. And it makes
Those are
me
my favorite times.
comfortable to know that, yes, that sense of purpose, I couldn't be a stay-at-home mom. Even if I were to remain married, I would need a career. I am that type of person who's a workaholic, to be honest. And I find a sense of pride in the fact that I am able to work and be very good at what I do. Um, so again, going back to the whole concept of 50-50, I think it is really important for, couples to communicate their needs. I think not just, when things hit the fan and then just go
Communication is the key.
side.
It is the key. It is the key to every marriage. You have got to communicate. Absolutely. If you are in a situation, and this is just going out to all our listeners, this is just my testimony. If you are in a situation where you are not communicating with your spouse, you are in more trouble than you can ever imagine. You have got to communicate. Find the time, make time for your spouse. Make time to just talk. Make time to just conversate. Make time to just ask questions like, you know what, dear? How can I make you feel more comfortable today? Like anything at all, and anything that can possibly stir the pot and get those seeds dropped so that for you can help your spouse understand that you are a person, you have feelings, and your feelings are valid. And hopefully, when you do that as a couple, you will come to some kind of understanding, especially when it comes to this 50-50 concept. Because let's just pretend for a second that I'm in a marriage, right? And I'm just trying my best to just get through the workday. And then I come home, and then there's several different people in the house, like children, and they're just trying their best to just get through, whatever they're doing on their phones or tablets or whatever they're having, and dinner's not made. Without conversation ahead of time, how would anyone know that you were hungry enough to have dinner? You have got to put that in conversation in the books of things you talk about during the day, especially if you have time to text your spouse, Instagram your spouse, or message your spouse, whatever. Talk about the things you want to talk about. Don't just talk about random stuff that's on the internet. Talk about things that really matter to you. Take the time out to communicate.
I think that we're probably delving into a different topic, but I think that has to do a lot with, maintaining an authentic relationship. So, when you lose that authenticity in the relationship over time, that's when things start to go awry. Like, the communication, starts to break down. That level of intimacy, breaks down. And then what you end up having is two distant people who just don't want to work at it anymore. So,
that's true. Yeah.
And again, I mean, I think, again, that whole concept of 50-50, everybody needs to kind of work at it. No relationship is ever going to be balanced that way, but you should look towards a 50-50 role, because when you have one, spouse working 80% of the time and then 20%, or 70-30, 60-40, it's exhausting. It's exhausting mentally, it's exhausting emotionally. But I think that whole 50-50 concept works to maintain kind of that holistic relationship. But I think in terms of time, I think we have covered kind of why the 50-50, relationship works.
It does. It's just a balance. It is, because you got to make sure you have two people that are working together.
Yes.
When you get into a situation where you're with a partner or something like that, it's no longer I anymore. It's a we.
It is. It's absolutely a we. And I think that we're going to just wrap it up right here because I see that you're looking away. So I just want to say,
no, it's not.
I just want to sign off and say thank you so much for another episode of Red Velvet. And until we, just continue to tune in. I mean, I know this is kind of, just Ellen and I just bantering, but honestly, we do want to provide some good stuff to you all. So Until our next episode, I want to wish everybody a great week and a wonderful day, and we will see
Me
you
too.
soon. All
Take
right.
care,
Take
people.
care. All right. Bye-bye.